By 2026, India is operating autonomous space missions, running the world's most active digital payments network, and commanding one of the fastest-growing major economies. To understand how it got here, we have to look back to a very different reality. In 1947, newly independent India was overwhelmingly poor and largely agricultural. The vast majority relied on manual farming with hand tools just to survive. To manage its fragile economy, the government adopted a highly regulated model. The state controlled heavy industry, restricted private enterprise, and limited imports, which kept industrial capacity extremely low and economic growth sluggish for decades. India possessed an enormous young population, but the existing economic framework lacked the private capital and international trade connections needed to transform that labor. That structure held until 1991, when India ran nearly completely out of foreign exchange reserves. The government was weeks away from defaulting on its international debt. Forced to act, leadership dismantled the old regulations. They opened the borders to international trade, reduced tariffs, and invited foreign investment directly into domestic industries. Suddenly, international capital and competition flowed into the country. The rigid mid-century system was gone, replaced by a market-driven approach that accelerated growth. These reforms lowered the barriers to importing foreign technology and simplified international communication, providing the regulatory groundwork that the IT sector would later use to connect with global clients. While other developing nations focused on building physical goods and factory towns, India turned its attention to code. Companies like TCS, Infosys, and Wipro trained thousands of engineers to handle software and IT outsourcing for global corporations. They turned cities like Bengaluru and Hyderabad into international technology hubs. Today, that expertise has moved out of the office and into the pockets of everyday citizens through a domestic platform called the Unified Payments Interface, or UPI. In the 2025 financial year, UPI processed more than 24,161 crore transactions, moving 314 lakh crore. The system onboarded over 55 crore users and is expanding, establishing payment connectivity with Singapore, France, Nepal, and others. India has moved past providing outsourced IT labor for Western tech giants. It is actively building, scaling, and exporting its own sovereign digital public infrastructure. Despite this software dominance, a glaring hole remains in the economic blueprint. True superpower status requires heavy physical manufacturing. To fix this, the state is aggressively positioning itself as a primary alternative in global supply chains. They are scaling up domestic production in electronics, semiconductors, renewable energy, and automobiles to serve international markets. If the government can successfully channel its massive workforce into these advanced manufacturing sectors, its share of global trade will multiply exponentially. That maturation is already visible in aerospace. The Indian Space Research Organization has moved far beyond launching basic communication satellites. In 2025, the SpaDeX mission successfully demonstrated autonomous docking and undocking in orbit. They also partnered directly with NASA to launch the highly complex ISRO Earth observation mission. They are also pushing into human spaceflight. In 2025, Indian astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla traveled to the International Space Station, setting the stage for India's own independent human spaceflight program, Gaganyaan. Successfully executing complex orbital maneuvers and crewed missions acts as a definitive, uncounterfeitable proof of a nation's elite technological and military capabilities. India is now leveraging this economic and technological weight to demand a louder voice in international politics. You can see this influence directly in 2026, as India took the chair of the BRICS organization. At that summit, member nations actively discussed bypassing traditional financial systems by linking their fast payment networks and exploring greater international use of the Indian rupee. India is leveraging its domestic innovations to propose a new set of standards for global trade, aiming to influence the core architecture of international finance. But launching rockets and hosting summits does not automatically grant a nation's superpower status. This chart reveals the paradox. While India boasts a massive overall economy growing at 7.6% in the 2025 to 2026 financial year, its per capita income remains a fraction of what you see in developed nations. Outside the sleek IT parks, physical infrastructure requires constant modernization. Urban centers are struggling to handle the massive influx of people and traffic. And then there is the demographic pressure. To maintain its trajectory, the state must rapidly improve basic healthcare and education and generate productive jobs for millions of young citizens entering the workforce every single year. When measured against its primary rivals, India still trails China considerably in manufacturing capacity and the United States in overall wealth generation. The macroeconomic growth story is completely real, but these grassroots structural challenges act as a massive weight on the country's ultimate potential. From an impoverished post-colonial state in 1947 to a nation boasting tech giants, sovereign digital payments, and lunar programs by 2026, the arc is extraordinary. But bridging that final gap to become a true superpower will require decades of sustained, flawless execution in job creation, education, and domestic innovation. So, what do you think? Will India overcome its internal hurdles to become the world's next superpower, or will another nation claim the mantle? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to Knowte for more stories on the forces shaping our world.